My heartbeat was rapidly accelerating at a constant rate towards the point of exhaustion and sheer restlessness. Seated directly in front of Mr. Ramos was an object so divine, it made me cringe just at the sight of it. The dreaded book report assignment during the month of October. Alright, youngins, how many of you guys are familiar with the BunnyMan legend? Asked Ramos. A burst of awkward silence quickly deafened the entire room, quiet enough to hear a pin drop. Nobody had any broad knowledge of the subject. Either that, or most of us just neglected to acknowledge the legend based upon the circumstances revolving the story. This was something the entire county of Fairfax couldn't accept, addressing such a topic. This was serious business that was unmistakably regretful or painful every moment it was discussed and retold numerous amounts of times. A story so legendary that even while telling the fable, a legend in itself was slowly being created. Children scorned, and old geezers developing cardiac, and anyone brave enough to delve into the malevolent tale would be instantly enshrined into glory, if you could get through with it without sustaining injury. Alright guys, listen up, said Ramos in a hesitant fashion. I'm going to pair you up with another classmate of yours, and you guys are to research the infamous BunnyMan legend and present your information to the class when all is said and done. Describe your experiences, what you already know about the tale, and educate us. I quickly sank into my chair. An electrifying wave of nervous tension quickly surfaced. I could instantly sense bad vibes resulting from this project, because deep down inside of me, I knew that something terrible would happen. There was second guessing, nothing to make of this in a positive way. This was the ultimate trip to hell. It was either take your chances and risk potential risk, or fail miserably and have to explain to my parents why I refused to work and got an F on my last report card. So, I swallowed my guts and went on chugging for the sake of humanity, or rather, myself is the most appropriate term. Derrick, I'm going to pair you up with Allison. Just then, I felt a faint tap on my shoulder. It was Van Burgen, in actuality, his real name being Carrie, the relentless 18-year-old Caucasian daredevil. He received a title after getting shot multiple times with 12,000 dill pickles, all but one managing to graze his face, and without one single scratch to disable him. From that moment on, he became immortalized, and every single kid in the entire school district praised him for his heroic actions. He's the kind of pretentious guy you wouldn't want to involve yourself with. An individual with a tough guy persona with a very masculine identity. The man with all the answers to life's most miraculous circumstances. Yet, the dude felt the need to get my attention. Derrick, replying in a sinister fashion, what do you say we work out some deal of some kind? You know, mano y mano. I got the perfect idea for this project, man, but it ain't got nothing to do with this damn paper. See, if you ain't a wuss, you take this opportunity, man. You want to be regarded as the guy who confronted the BunnyMan and met him, but survived your encounter? I stared at Van Burgen with a confused look, wondering what he was on about. What are you suggesting? Van Burgen got up from his desk, situated behind me, and then got up and whispered in my ear with a silent-like and swift motion. I'm saying that we should get this damn party started for real and visit this BunnyMan on Halloween. Let's see if this shit is for real, aight? Legend says that the kook in the bunny suit chills under the same tunnel every single Halloween, And if the guy blows and turns out to be just some kind of bum, then we make it up and say some other load of crap that these gullible suckers at school will believe. So let's get up there at midnight and wait in the cemetery. Oh, and bring that Shyla of yours, your Pepsi lover. Same goes for Allison. Nobody will discriminate against you no more. It ends after this encounter. All those people in school making fun of you for that unusual romance of yours, they will look up to you as a hero. Now let's go on and get this done. The Pepsi and you are finally going to look good together. At that moment, I realized that this was the only opportunity I had at salvaging all of what was left of my dignity. So, I decided that I was going to go through with this, no matter how it would affect me in the future. But why the cemetery? I thought that the BunnyMan was at the tunnel. I remarked bluntly, "Hey, Jay retard, this ain't no time to be talking about no morals. You'll see, you wise ass, just stick with me, and you got yourself covered. I know what I'm doing." Just then, the bell rang, and all the kids from Mr. Ramos' English class were quickly dismissed, and thus began the adventure of a lifetime. Just then, the bell rang, and all kids from Mr. Ramos' English class were quickly dismissed, and thus began the adventure of a lifetime. I had no time for preparation, and my palms were sweaty from the sheer anticipation of the moment that was soon to be uncovered. As the clock struck just after 3, I headed through the northwest corner of the building and out the double doors as I trotted towards my bus and onto my way home from school. The infamous tension perpetuating through my body due to the overwhelming stress caused by the deal. As I made my way up the stairs and onto the bus, the driver greeted me with a bright lit expression on his face, and I took a seat filled with incredibly displeasing individuals. Man, how many times do I have to take this stupid bus? I feel lost in translation, and I'm not talking Bill Murray translation here. No sirree. I need a car, I mumbled to myself. Transportation has always been somewhat of a scam in Detroit, but if there's one thing they have right, it's the fact that each and every bus here has the capability of getting to its proper destination without self-destructing in a manner that will allow us to perish. Yes, for once, there is no clear-cut common misconception. Detroit always has working buses, and what a shocker it is. Yet, it doesn't help when you have incompetent personnel on the bus who lack the common sense to differentiate between whole vitamin D milk and soda, which easily cancels out the peaceful serenity. Look, I'm not saying that everybody who rides the bus is a complete douche. Well, actually, yeah, they are. But that's beside the point. There still is one individual who I can't stand, and yet I can stand at the same time, who rides the bus every day. Yet here he is, day after day, sitting here in his fashionable, bright red attire, with a hat he wore every day to school, crooked to the side, with a confident look about him that echoes the greatest. This guy in particular is so far from his academics that he doesn't even care if he fails or not. I have no idea why he's 27 years old and they still allow him to attend this high school, but he tries. Well, maybe not the most, but he's just cool to get along with. In a weird way, we kind of share the same ideals. I mean, he sees everybody as pretentious, and so do I. He may have failed 10 grades, but I can't explain why. But somehow, we developed a solid relationship, and we knew we were tight from that moment on. Quite a character indeed. I mean, come on, he's got a band, and for an 18-year-old like me, that's enough to draw me in. "Derrick," shouted Sean from afar. I took one look at him and cracked a hesitant smile, then proceeded to sit by the empty space situated directly next to him on the bus seat. We covered a lot during the 15-minute bus ride traveling home, ranging from how ridiculous the school is to the over-rambunctious phenomena that is girls. I wanted to question him about the BunnyMan, or if he had any inside information that would be worth of value for me to hold on to. But the way things were between myself and Sean, we already knew that nothing had to be said about the topic. We practically saw through each other's minds. We were visionaries. The problem was, nobody else was. Yet, I was perfectly fine with it, as the bus made its last narrow sharp turn that led its way into a modest, suburban-like estate. I made my closing remarks with Sean, and later on, trotted off in style, as usual. A house so beautifully elegant and sophisticated stood overlooking a pitch blue lake with a handful of animals to my liking. Glimmering windows with light green tinted shutters, and a partially cut lawn with exposed roots. I quickly ran along until I just stopped shy of a beaming red door with a shiny golden door knocker. I used the door knocker by knocking 3 times, but nobody answered. I could sense the aura from a mile away. It was the sweet-smelling aroma of my guilt-stricken parents, dressed in their most professional apparel. I couldn't begin to fathom what had suddenly pierced through their minds. It was apparent that something unusual was going on, yet I had no idea what the deal was. I noticed a delicate tear gracefully poured down along their cheek, my father, the right cheek, and my mother, the left cheek. Turns out they were chopping onions, which they were preparing for an early dinner buffet for the fall social, set to kick off in a couple of days, which all smelled deliciously satisfying. I opened the door and walked into the dining room, where I kicked off my wrinkly and worn-out sneakers and sat comfortably in one of the blue chairs situated near the table that had a white cloth covering it. My mother walked into the room with a disgusted look on her face due to previously interacting with the tear-jerking vegetable. "How was your day, Sweaty?" I looked at Mom with an incredibly disgusted look. You know when you joke around with your parents on one simplistic occasion and they take it serious to the point at which they automatically assume they're just as humorous as your friends, yet they lack humor in reality? The same could be said about my parents. I wouldn't go as far as to admit that they are pestering, conniving little minions. However, when an adult interferes with personal slang, especially to fit the personality of adolescents, it doesn't quite work out. Unfortunately, the term sweaty fails to coincide with the type of vocabulary a minor is likely to use in everyday common language. Even so, I highly admire my parents, despite the blatant persistent need to engage in modern-day slang that would always allow myself to cringe. Nothing much. Ramen's aside as a project, the heating issue in the school still hasn't been resolved yet, and I'm going to meet the BunnyMan on Halloween this year. With a quick pause, Mother's jaw dropped with intense anxiety, as if she had been stunned in disarray. Even she was aware of the mysterious revelations surrounding the BunnyMan and the revolving controversy. "George! George!" cried out from Mom, signaling for Dad. Although my parents have always been open to the idea of a potential individual confronting the BunnyMan, to have their only son take on the small task of associating himself with the BunnyMan would, to put it simply, result in a disaster for them. So, how was I able to negotiate my way out of this particular situation? Being the smooth talker that I was, I didn't. I simply bolted to my bedroom without any interaction whatsoever in order to eliminate any possible doubt that was sure to have surfaced. Sure, I had every intention of explaining to my parents and could have easily convinced them to allow me to go through with the BunnyMan ordeal. I mean, what is absolutely more gratifying than knowing for a fact that you defeated the BunnyMan and having every single person in the entire town look up to you as a cultural icon. Of course, fame and fortune had sprouted with each intricate thought that passed through my mind, but there was also the dreaded despair that would begin to haunt my soul had I not accomplished my objective, failed. Then there was, of course, the danger of not making it out alive. If I suddenly passed away upon tragic circumstances, how would my parents be able to yell at me anymore if their only son had perished? I suppose they could randomly adopt a child for the sole purpose of humiliation, but that would be merely harsh, and I don't think my parents are willing to accept the fact that their adopted child isn't the Derrick they've always spewed insults at. The anger and frustration would be there, but it wouldn't be the same for them. And what about my teachers? They'd obviously miss assigning homework on a consistent basis. Each and every day, they'd walk into the room and notice an empty seat of where one brave individual stood their ground, but failed to live up to their end of the bargain. It's a cliche, I'm aware, yet it was the truth. So I had to do it for them, in order to relinquish any everlasting failure. After hours of contemplation, I laid in my bed until moonlight had nearly dissipated, then quickly got myself situated. As the days went by, after declaring to the parents that I was going to meet the BunnyMan, the cozy home that sat in the middle of suburbia still managed to create a fairly pleasant environment, with my parents humbly quiet in the process, which supposedly meant that they finally approved of this mission. The peculiarity had been non-existent, and even that woman that I'd been thinking of in recent years, my ex-wife, had finally been completely erased from my mind, and I found Shyla after all the sprouted love had finally surfaced. For the moment that we saw each other, the thoughts of the BunnyMan and any other troubles associated with negativity had been wiped from my mind. For the meantime, I was living in sweet serenity. While we were spending large portions of our time slacking and cutting school, we caught ourselves laughing at some of the most outrageous circumstances. It must have been from that sugar high after going to a local Buffalo Wild Wings in downtown Fairfax. It was football Sunday, and what better way to enjoy ourselves than aiming to make fun of the football players in the silver screen? For the record, that's American football. You know, the name we hijacked and claimed as our own compared to the rest of the world. But anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about. We were gigantic football fans, but we always felt that it was necessary to criticize the opposition on the football team who failed to live up to expectations. Our humor had always been naturally defined, so it never surprised me that we kept laughing at the same things, indulging ourselves repetitiously, time after time, while others around the restaurant taunted, "Just drink the damn thing," and gave us weird looks. Yes, it was a match made in heaven, but it quickly turned to dark. When Shyla mysteriously vanished, it was nowhere to be found. It was like she never existed. As I glanced up at the television screen to observe the latest scores, I looked down a split second at the table. Nearly a second later, only to find that there had been a note underneath a glass cup, so I quickly picked it up to observe it. "Normalcy can't save me," were the words etched in stone, leaving me discombobulated and dumbfounded. Here I was, having a night of my life, and out of nowhere, the night ends in despair. The woman that had so much promise, with thoughts of sensational love, was out of my life and leaving me to question what was going on. Where could she have possibly fled to, and why leave without any type of warning? Was she aware that I was on my way to fight the BunnyMan, and she felt that she didn't want to be involved with this type of ordeal? Or was it the fact that the romance had finally come to an uneventful halt, and didn't feel normal anymore, and set out on her own mission to find peace? whatever occurred, all that was left for me to do was to get to the bottom of this legend. Although it hurt as much as it did to see her go, I had to move on. After all, this was probably what she would have wanted. This was it. It was time for me to venture forth and see where my destiny leads me, communicate with the BunnyMan, and present my findings. The moment had finally arrived. The next few days leading up to Halloween went by faster than I could have possibly imagined. Without much thought as to how I was going to go about strategic planning in my approach towards this magnificent phenomena, I had no source of preparation. Yet, here it was, after days had gone by, confrontation and contemplation, something had to be done. I kept thinking to myself that just as long as I had Van Burgen and Shyla beside me, nothing could stop us from achieving our ultimate goal. As I begrudgingly made my way towards the infamous cemetery, I hoped that Van Burgen would show. Just this once, don't be a fool, I remarked hesitantly. My life was riding on his shoulders. The overwhelming desire of hate was already to set in case the individual who prided himself on being a daredevil did not show, and deservedly so. For once in my life, I trusted this certain daredevil with my life. Remember, this was the guy who did everything in his power to gain recognition for some of the most idiotic stunts he was set to perform. I put every ounce of hope in his hands. 5 minutes late? Come on now, I have to watch the Pistons game, I silently whispered. Just then, a flash of red out of a mist of pitch black approached. But this wasn't Van Burgen. Oh no, it was what I had feared all along, the BunnyMan. I had no recollection of what he looked like, to be exact, but all I could distinctly remember, was at the time he had his ruby red costume with glimmering whiskers and a very intimidating axe. He stood there silent and peaceful for a moment, as if all the myths and legends regarding the dreaded BunnyMan had been clearly declared false. Sure, if you get past the overly intimidating demeanor and the extremely athletic build he had encompassed, you could sense the stressing look in his eyes, as if something had been bothering him, like a young child who had recently lost his mother. He was portrayed accurately by his peers, everything except for his personality, a clearly misunderstood man. For a moment we stood staring blankly at each other, not knowing what to do. We could definitely still make each other out, but we were still a distance away from each other at the same time. As we stared at each other from a distance, I yelled at him, "Do you have Shyla? Do you have Shyla?" And the BunnyMan remarked, What? What? I can't hear you." I remarked again, "Do you have Shyla? Shyla, my attractive Pepsi bottle." He paused for a second, then thought about it. "I still can't hear you. Yell harder so I can understand." I then said, "Shyla! Shyla! Shyla, you stupid BunnyMan!" Then I noticed he threw the axe down, and what he did next was truly bizarre. He then thrusted his hands forward, pointed at me, and all of a sudden, I passed out. I completely blacked out. In the morning, I awoke, and I was still in the field, but the BunnyMan was nowhere to be seen. Instead, I woke up to a note on my chest. The note itself came from the BunnyMan. He said, "Sorry, I wear hearing aids, so I can't hear you quite well. I guess your words have fallen on deaf ears. I still don't know what you said, but I'm pretty sure you can figure it out on your own. I have faith in you, young Padawan." Then, I read further, and he says, P.S. Please tell everybody you killed me. I'm so sick of being misunderstood and being a laughing stock in the community, or even a scary stock, whatever that means. Please, go back to class and tell them that you killed me. I don't want to be bothered anymore. Please, and they will leave me alone. Completely baffled by the note, I walked home, alone, and later arrived an hour home and went to bed. Here was a beast, for a long period of time, who had been ridiculed for far too long, yet he wanted to be left alone. So I decided that the next day, I was going to do him a favor when I presented the material to Rama's class. But where did Van Burgen even go? Where was he headed? I haven't heard from him in a while, and I don't know what the situation is. More importantly, what happened to Shyla? It was pretty evident that the BunnyMan had no idea where she was either, so he didn't take her. I guess I'll have to find out myself. But first, the presentation. We can worry about the other stuff later. Hey guys, so first of all, thank you so much for tuning into the Phantom of Darkness original series of the BunnyMan. This was a series that I started not too long ago, about 2 years ago, and I wanted to actually compile the entire video together instead of divide it into parts, so you guys just can have it all in one video. And I was planning on actually continuing the rest of the series while I get some other ghost stories out for you guys on Monday and record them and make sure they're as good as possible. I don't know if you guys can hear from my voice, but it's not doing really well at the moment. It's a little hoarse, and I want to make sure that I'm at 100% before I continue. So I hope that this video will actually do you over until then, and kind of be a refresher for you guys if you haven't heard this in a while, or if you're stumbling upon this series for the first time. I encourage you guys to comment below and let me know if you want more parts to this video. If you want me to finish the story, because the BunnyMan is like really, if you haven't listened to it in the first place, it's just a wacky story. It's something that's just really fun for you guys to listen. It's an adventure story. It's a whole mess of a lot of other things as well. So if you guys really like that kind of content and you want to see more of it, if you want me to finish the series, there's only a little bit left. But if you guys really want it, I can deliver that to you, but I have to know in the comment section below. Give the video a like, get it, as much traction as possible, because it really depends on how well this video does and how much energy I have to put through it, if that makes any sense. I mean, obviously I'm going to put everything into every video I make, but just, some videos are more suited on YouTube than others. So, guys, I'm going to go though. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the comment section.